Welcome to another episode of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast. My name's Matthew Turner, and this is episode number 66. And Ant's going to make me sing it, so I might as well put my heart and soul into it. It's entitled, I said maybe you're going to draft me a safety. And that's what I'm doing. I'm joined by the aforementioned absolute arsehole Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ryan McCluskey. How you doing, boys?
Sweating my knackers off.
Hey, that's a class title. I mean, who else comes up with stuff like this? You know, me.
This guy right here.
I'm just hoping you didn't sing it too well and we get no, we can't get demonetized, but they might flag it up as Oasis.
Oh, could we get monetized first? That'd be great. On that point, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and we're just short of 1,000 followers on Twitter. If you're not following us on there already, we'd really appreciate help on the push to get there. Be a milestone for us, all the work we've put in, which, I mean, I'm not going to lie, is just for my own amusement, but it'd be great to get some recognition too, right? So come on, guys, hit that bell, do all the things that are going to make it fun for us. Push for this episode is going to be looking at the news over the past 7 days, and then we are going into looking at the 2022 NFL draft. So the idea here is college football season is just around the corner. We have 2 first-round picks. We have quite a few comp picks too. So the college football season this year is of a special interest to Detroit Lions fans, surely. So from the outset, those guys who don't follow college, especially in the UK, but some of you guys in America as well, might go, well, I don't know who's out there. Well, this is it. We're going to tell you a few guys to look for. This episode is linebackers and safeties. So we'll go over a few guys to watch at the back end of the podcast. Just want to start off by letting you know what we've been doing over the past couple of weeks in terms of the tape reviews. So we've had Jermar Jefferson and Derek Barnes. We've been breaking them down, looking at their tape, looking at the strengths and weaknesses. The weekend after that, we did Amon-Ra and Ife Melifonwu. We did Alim McNeil on this Saturday just gone, although when we went on to do Levi, I did have some technical difficulties. So we've got 2 parts up, and we've only actually done half the comparison. So this coming Saturday, we're going to finish off Levi, and we're going to do Penei Sewell, and that'll be all of them done. So that'd be great. We also did a fantastic interview with Math Bomb, otherwise known as Kentley Platty. That was a fantastic interview. He must be... There's nothing against some of the other guests that we've had on the show, but I came away from the interview thinking, that's one of the smartest people I've ever talked to. Like, he may not be right with everything he's talking about, but the way he speaks about things, guys, the way that he approaches problems and tries to solve them is just something that kind of mesmerizes me every time I talk to someone who kind of thinks like that. Was that something that you came away thinking too? What have you thought about what we've been doing the past few weeks? It's been crazy.
I agree. When from the outsider looking in, you think what MathBomb does is just numbers. You think it's Excel spreadsheets. You think it's working out, giving them a grade out of 10 and then putting a colour to it. But it's so much more than that. Like the time and effort he goes to putting in to research. He will look on multiple websites. He'll spend hours trying to get the right measurements, the right grades, statistics for any workouts. Like I say, he will cross-check anything doesn't think's right. He will go to every length. And as he says, you can't just change one number. You've got to change a whole group of players, whole wide receiver, the coding, like the thought that goes behind it, like is spectacular. The hours that go in to getting it up from building just from a spreadsheet now to these templates and the coding and the background and all the digits, it's more than zeros and ones. Like he looks at sport, he looks at football more than a sport. He looks behind the analytics. He looks at what makes a player on and off the field and how that bases it. So the grade and the colour he gives them is far more than how athletic they are. It's how they are as a person, how they are as a football IQ, obviously how well they do on the field, but how well they will fit into a scheme, because you've got to take that into account as well. Like he is just, it blows my mind. Like I say, whoever he takes on as that intern, like they're going to be learning off someone that has got a very acute mind, and he was just a brilliant guest to have. I really enjoyed talking to him, even if it's hard to grasp, because it's just great to listen to someone try and explain it.
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of overwhelming at times. I think I'm going to go back and watch it a couple of times just to try and absorb everything, because what was clear to me was that he kind of went out of his way to talk about what he thought Raz did for him and how it was a part of the picture. And I think the biggest thing about Raz's detractors and about the haters for Kent in general is they do think that he thinks that Raz is the be all and end all. I don't know if you felt the same way, Anne, but to me it just felt like it was a piece of the puzzle.
I wasn't with you for that interview. I've not had a chance to see it just yet.
Oh,
It's fine. I'll jump in. No, he basically he said, like I say, his life revolves around it. But he said, don't get too wrapped up in everything, didn't he? He said like the combine. He said, I think he said it was the one of the more understated things. The cone and the shuttle drills are the most important. He said he doesn't care about the arm length, the bench reps. They can be a bit pointless. The 40-yard dash. He says, don't buy into everything you see. Don't let numbers jump off of a page make what you think about a person. Like you say, it's just a tiny cog in working out who is someone that's going to fit in your organization and how they're going to work in an exact scheme. So he's just a drop in a tiny ocean, even though he holds all this data, like, and he is like he's a wizard at what he does. Like, he just doesn't want all that recognition. Like, he's never going to let it get big-headed. He doesn't think it's bigger than what it is. Like, he just wants to evolve it now, and he wants to see how he can take it to the next level.
Don't know what's just happened with Ant there, but it did look like he was having a little bit of a problem with his feed, so hopefully he'll come back in a second. And just on that point, I did have, obviously, the technical difficulties with the Levi stream, and it was pretty gutting. It took me out 2 or 3 times in the space of 20 minutes, and it isn't fixed. We've had another engineer round. I've had another 2 calls with Virgin Media. I'm going to name drop them because they're just useless. So if we do drop out, guys, I do apologise. I've tried my best to fix it, but we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed it's late enough in the evening that it won't be a problem, but no guarantees on that. Right, let's hit the news. And we've got Ant back now as well, which is good. Right, so to start off with, we have Michael Brockers. He went on the Jim Rome show and indicated that the player buy-in to the regime is super high. We already knew that it was good, and kind of everyone talks about the fact that it's nice to have the, coaches that have played before and that sort of thing. But Brockers went out of his way to kind of really highlight how much buy-in there is, and it's, they're all on the same page. They're kind of living off every word that's coming out of the coaches. They've got off on the right foot, and he said it's exciting to be moving forward with the team. And you might think, moving from someone like the Rams, who's going to be perennially contending, to the Lions, who don't have a history of that in the last few years, who's to say in the next couple, but, you might say that it's a down step for him. But he looked genuinely, really pleased to be here. But one of the more shocking things to come out of that interview was that he drew a comparison between McVay and Campbell, and said, and I quote, "Working with him is awesome because he reminds me a lot of McVay and how he came in. As far as understands, there's no ego when it comes to his coaching style. It's all about the team." I believe that about Campbell. McVay? Really? Come on, man.
No one's buying that. Sean McVay is the definition of little man syndrome. Of course, he's bloody got an ego. Look, he was about 5'3", got a smoking hot girlfriend. He walks around and swaggers about holding a ball with his arm around the thing. No, of course he's got an ego. He thinks he's God's gift to coaching right now, in my opinion. So I like Brockers, I really do, and I get what he's trying to do, but don't draw comparisons that can just be cut right through the bullshit. Pardon my French.
Yeah. We saw this last year. There's all these interviews and that. They're there to try and get you hyped up. But I mean, I've been through this. I've seen it. I'm not buying it for 1 second that there's a lot of comparisons there. I think, we need to see product on the pitch before we start believing anything that's said, because the time for words is long gone now.
Yeah, very, very true. Talking about words, ESPN have been continuing their surveys of NFL coaches, executives, and scouts, and they've placed TJ Hawkinson at 5th in the NFL in the tight end position. Obviously, lots of the different publications picked this one up, including, of course, ESPN in the first place. It feels pretty fair, actually, to me. Tight end, there obviously isn't a wealth of riches at the position. Once you get past 8 or 9, you're looking at some properly mediocre players. Having said that, I don't think you can move that top 3. Maybe that top 4, Waller and Kelsey and San Francisco's man, Kittle. Yeah, they're in stone in the top 3, right? There's no dislodging them. And then there's arguments as to the Baltimore tight end, I think, who's at 4.
Mark Andrews.
So 1, thank you, boys. So 5 to me looks pretty set. There's a couple of guys who I think are kind of at his level, but hopefully Hockenson is ascending, whereas the rest of them are kind of just where they are. That's my hope. But fair?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can't really complain with that.
I mean, look at the 4 guys above him. They're all highly experienced guys on big deals. So, it's probably to be expected that they're a bit a higher level than him at the minute. This is only his 3rd year, whereas the rest of them are almost veterans now. So it's fair.
Yeah, all right. Jeff Risdon has had a look at the projected players to make the 53 on the offensive side of the ball, and it made for some interesting reading when I went through it. There's a question as to whether Blau makes the roster. Obviously, he was on the practice squad at the start of last year, moved to the 53 to protect him as the Cowboys were sniffing around when Dak went down. I would suggest that the Cowboys sniffing around him early would mean that there might be interest in him if he did hit the practice squad. I would think that he would be disappearing if he did. So I think he's going to make it just to protect him. But there is the argument that you don't really want the 3rd quarterback on the team. Other bits and pieces that were interesting. He thinks that Jason Kabinda, friend of the pod, is nailed on as the only fullback to make the team, which I'm not sure about, actually, because I think that a 4th tight end could take that spot. And I mean, I'm pulling for Kabinda because he's had a great journey and he's a properly nice guy. And he was effective last year, but I'm not sure on that. He thinks that Jermar Jefferson is on the bubble to make the roster and could hit the practice squad. There's a couple of other bits and pieces down there. The most shocking of which is he thinks that Brashad Perryman is on the bubble to not make the roster. Argument for which is just that his entire career he's been inconsistent, and there could be better borderline options there when you've got Bolden, balling out at camp, and you've got people like Sage Surratt and Damian Ratley who can do a job in various places. Tom Kennedy's seen his moments. What do you reckon with that kind of group of guys we've just been speaking about in terms of Blau and Kabinda and Perryman, especially, I think the major ones?
I'll go first. I can see us keeping Bluff purely because, like you say, the protection. If we do decide to, like say, keep him on the practice squad, he could well get poached. But at the same time, we do just have a habit as an organisation of rolling with 3 quarterbacks. Like I say, we've had Jeff Driscoll, we had Brad Kaya. Like I say, these are guys that we kept around just in the need to be if anything happened. Like I say, I don't know much about Tim Boyle, but I imagine it must be a decent battle for them two with the backup job. Bluff knows the offence. He's been here around a while. Tim Boyle isn't just going to come in and take that from him. So there's value to keeping them both there. I think Kabinda will be a lock to make the team because I don't trust the tight end depth. Like I say, we've had Hunter Bryant. Like I say, he had awful injury history in college and he's managed to just keep that going now. He must be in real trouble. Jake Houseman. I don't, like I say, there's a very limited tight end depth on the roster for me. So I don't think any of them really can sustain much of a chance at keeping out an experienced fullback. Where I think, looking at how anti-alien offense, like if we do run the I formation, we're going to have a big need for a fullback. Because like I say, some like lead block for Eckler back in the day. So it's going to be someone that could be interesting to keep around. And I don't think it's crazy at all to say that Perryman could not make the team when you've got likes of Javon McKinley, you've got Sage Surratt, you've got Tom Kennedy, like I say, you've got Victor Bolden, Damian Ratliff, like I say, and the returner we signed from Tennessee, can't remember his name, but these are all guys that offer something potentially in the slot. Perryman is a journeyman who has just been inconsistent his whole career, so I wouldn't be surprised if any of them make the team ahead of him. So I actually think Jeff's done a pretty good job.
Yeah, Khalif Raymond, the other guys, he's got him as kind of in as the starting returner, as a kind of lock. Well, not lock, but just he thinks he'll get in on that basis. So, yeah, what do you think, Ant?
Like you say, there's not really a lot to disagree with. I don't think there's any really big omissions there. It's more to do with the fringe players, etc. Well, obviously, I think the one I'll take exception to is obviously Jefferson. He shouldn't be on the bubble. He should be in the team. I've done the review on him. He offers a lot. He's potentially going to be a good running back 3 for this team. And provided he does well in camp, there should be no question that he is on this team going forward. We've just spent draft capital on him as well. I know it's a late round pick, but all you have to do is watch his tape to see what he brings to this side. I'd be surprised if Perriman didn't make it, because then what really would the point of bringing him in have been? It's his last year. This is a rebuilding year for the wide receiver corps. We may as well give him a go. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But if it works, it works. It's really a no-lose situation for us. So I wouldn't really want to see him go. I'm not, Ratley, guys like that Raymond, they're not going to be receivers here. They're not good enough to be receivers here. And, Perriman could be if he has a good year. So I hope they keep him. I do.
I hope they keep him just because even if he doesn't catch a ball, if he stretches the field, it's going to create opportunities for us slot guys underneath. And those are the guys who we actually think Goff is better chemistry-wise with. But if they're going to get a bit of room, you need a guy to stretch the field. So I think Perriman being there, being the burner, has value even if he doesn't do anything. They have to account for that. So I hope he makes the team because there's no one else like that. Williams is speedy, but he's not quite that quick, even though Williams is clear number 1 in my opinion, with the kind of good combination of hands, speed, size, route running. He's not elite at any of these things, but he's very good at all of them. His biggest problem is availability. I think he's been a kind of wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2 his entire career, but he looks like a wide receiver 1. If you actually look at him, watch what he can do, I don't see any reason why he can't do that. It's just you also can't trust him to play 17 games a year. He's not going to do it. You've seen it through history. So, fantastic if he does. Excellent. But I don't see it. So I do worry about this team. Amon-Ra St. Brown, come on, man. We're backing you 100%. Right, let's talk. Sorry.
I think the main thing is, I was about to say, I've said this before, there is no wide receiver 1 on this team. I think
come back to us, Anne. It's not me this time.
About finding one. Oh, fuck.
Oh, there's a great irony when a swear word comes out garbled.
What I was going to say is there's a lot of wide receiver 2s and a lot of wide receiver Bs. Like I say, there's no true one. So it's going to be a dogfight. I'd like to see Perriman play just because his dad played here. He's got that on his side at least, like I say, because it'd be nice for him to even wear the same number. So it's a bit of a nice story, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the thing with Perriman as well is that I didn't realise that his dad not only played here, but is like 6th all time in yards for the Lions, or 7th or something like that. He's well up there. Like, he didn't just play for the team. He's almost a club legend. Like, how often do you get a guy come along whose dad was 6th in yards for the team in an era where we've had Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay, Calvin Johnson, Golden Tate, all in recent history, and this guy is right up there. It's so I'm really pulling for him.
Everyone talked about Herman Moore, but they didn't say anything about Brett. Is it Brett Perriman? I think it is, isn't it? His dad. Yeah, no one talked about him. Moore got all the love, but like I say, he put up some decent numbers.
I think you're back and looking fine now, Ant. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry. I've got internet issues just like you. It's getting swapped on Friday, so hopefully this is the last pod that I ever have any fucking internet issues. Sorry, I swore again, but it's frustrating.
So, what you were talking about wide receivers, I think.
Oh, I was just saying, I think, you're saying Williams might look like a wide receiver 1, but we don't have a wide receiver one here this year. I've said it before. You know, we're going to need to go out and get one next year. To be honest, I think we might not even have a wide receiver two here. I think these are really all just going to be squad guys and a slot guy. I mean, hopefully Amon-Ra gets that slot position as his own, but yeah, I don't think we're going to be expecting much from any of them, to be fair.
No, I think you're probably right, but I do wonder how much value there is in having a true number one versus having guys who can all contribute in a scheme which works to maximize the value of those guys. I mean, okay, the number one draws the attention of the best corner, but it's like, okay, but that still leaves your number two on their number two. So what are you going to do?
I mean, that's probably the one advantage we have is when the defense is lining up against us, they're thinking, right, who's the guy? Because there isn't one to naturally go after. So maybe that may work in our favour. But
I mean, is Jalen Ramsey really going to cover Hawkinson?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Then, might we get one of the rookie corners there and Perryman or Johnson get lined up on, Williams get lined up on him, ruin him. It's one of those. But I think wide receiver one, it's like quarterback. You don't need them till later on in your build. They're what you need when you're going for it. We're not going for it. We have no use for a wide receiver one right now.
Yeah.
Not where we're at.
Yeah, no, I agree, definitely. Antonio Jenkins in the chat just said, we haven't even gone through cuts yet in the NFL, so the Lions can still be looking for a true number one this year. I get the sentiment, I do, and maybe we could get an upgrade on our best guy. That guy won't be a number one, though, because I don't care how bad you are, teams are not cutting a true number one through training camp.
No.
If they're a number one wide receiver, they are a number one wide receiver, so it's not happening.
There's no one even on the market. I don't even know if I can name the best wide receiver currently on the market.
Unless Robinson decides to sit out in Chicago and we ruin them and get him.
Best case scenario, I'd say, is Brandon Cooks finally gets fed up. We send them a mid to late round pick and take it from Houston. 7,000 yard seasons in a row. Like, he must be fed up. I don't know how he puts up with that crap. But I don't know. I don't want out. I would love Brandon Cooks.
And Cooks and Goff have chemistry as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I mean, I don't like the idea of us trading at all for anyone this season, but if we did, that would be intriguing.
Did you see that article today saying we should trade Jamal Williams to the bloody Rams now that Akers is injured? It's like, who the fuck comes up with this stuff? Really? It's like, yeah, let's not trade. Because, I mean, as far as they go, he's got every chance of being better than Swift by the end of the year. So you don't trade him away.
You can tell the difference between a publication like Lions Wire, I don't think Pride of Detroit would put that out. The Athletic definitely wouldn't put that out, versus some of the more clickbait-heavy people out there who just... Carlos Monarez would put that article out there. Let's say. Like, that's right up his street. Oh, what will annoy the fan base?
It's like those people that think, the Lions should go trade for Stephon Gilmore. He's unhappy. He used to be a number one corner. No, he's washed and wants about $60 million. Shut up.
Oh, and Xavier Howard would be another as well.
How many firsts does that cost us?
If Bob Quinn was in charge, you could totally see him going for Stephon Gilmore. In fact, he'd probably already be here.
Yeah, it's true. Xavier Howard, by the way, they're thinking that the asking price is going to be a first-round pick. One first-round pick, that's it.
What?
For a contending team, he'd have a high value. He is a good player.
He is a good player, but also massive. He's the sixth highest paid corner in the league and thinks he's underpaid. He signed his contract last year. He's got injury history. And he was done for domestic abuse. Like, how many red flags do you want? I know he had 10 interceptions, but my God, he's probably a cancer in the locker room, and that's why they want rid.
Yeah. He's on like $15.1 million a year. Like, can we afford to blow that right now?
Let's face it, at the end of the day, it's an offensive league. Don't spend money on the defense, apart from maybe on the edge. That's the one position you can maybe justify. But otherwise, try and be as cheap as you can on defense.
Especially not with this. Yeah.
I think we're sick to death of seeing highly paid corners here. I think we're sick of that now, aren't we? After last year.
Yeah. Didn't want to pay Slay $10 million a year, but they paid someone from the Atlanta Falcons $8 million a year to not play.
Trufant got 10, didn't he?
I think he got 16 over 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes me do that as well. Dan Campbell has appeared on the Rich Eisen show, and he's discussed the lessons he's learned from Bill Parcells. Obviously played under him at the Cowboys when he was head coach there, then coached alongside him for a year at Miami. I think that Parcells was VP of football operations, while Campbell was a kind of learning his trade as a coach in Miami at the start there. He might have been tight ends coach by then, I'm not sure. But he was talking about, what he's learned, and there's a piece from Sports Illustrated, and the biggest thing I took away from it, the thing that he really kind of went heavy on, was the fact that Parcells knew how to motivate a team, knew how to motivate individual players. He would know exactly what type of guy needed a bit of a, bit of a carrot. You'll be all right. Give you an incentive. Here we go. This is what's going to motivate you. Some guys need to kick up the ass, like, get on with it, you lazy bastard. Don't know why he's northern in my head, but there you go. It sounds like he has had a lot of lessons from potentially the best in the business. Parcells has to be, top 5 all time, potentially, maybe. I don't know whether that's generous. Actually, there's been a few really good coaches, but the guy is obviously the grandfather of one of the grandfathers of the scheme that we're kind of working with here, and it's interesting to hear Campbell talk about where he's come from, what he believes in, the kind of philosophy, what he considers to be important. And as much as anything else, it's about making the guys tick, whatever they do. And that's really encouraging to me. It's not about shoehorning them into doing something they're not suited to. It's what makes you feel good. Because we'll do that. That's fine. I'm in heaven. I'm just in heaven. It's so different from last year, so different from what we've been used to. Let's do what we do well. Whatever that is. I don't really have a question for you guys. I just want to rant, but come up with something with this.
I agree. Go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, if you doubt Campbell's vision at all, I think all you have to do is look at the team he's assembled round him. These are up and coming, highly sought after coaches who believe in what he's selling. So, if you think Parcells has had an effect on him, I think you would say yes, because obviously, he's got a vision that people agree with and that want to be part of. And I think that just says it all, really.
I'd say between Parcells and Don Capers, you've got a good, 80, 90 years of football experience. And it's true though, isn't it? You can get the most talented bunch of players in the world, and if you don't know how to motivate them, you don't know what buttons to push to get them to play for you and buy in, then they just won't be interested. I'd rather have 22 motivated guys that are all better than average than 22 unmotivated guys that are all elite, that are just there to cash a paycheck. He's going to crack some skulls, he's going to bash some heads together. Some of them he's going to put a tender arm round, but no one's going to see that, and they're all just going to call him a bit of a thug and a bully, and he's Bigfoot. But no, like you say, he's going to surprise a few people how well he's able to relate to some players.
I think with the guys who are coaches who were players, I think a lot of people come back with, but players don't necessarily make the best coaches. And that is absolutely true. But let's just have a look at the coaching staff and examine them just very quickly, one by one. Dan Campbell, obviously. So we don't know too much about his coaching acumen as yet. But I don't know whether it was a result of just changing the coaching and it worked out well. But there was a big bounce in Miami when he took over. It didn't last a full season, but he did things which are fundamentally different, and it led to a good result. Only 1 year, and he's learned since then as well. So let's see on that. But, we'll say that's to be decided. Deuce Staley, running backs coach, assistant head coach, Philadelphia Eagles, won a Super Bowl in that role. How well did they do over the last few years at the running back position? Oh, well, in their Super Bowl run, running back was a strength of theirs. Since then, with Miles Sanders, running back was a strength of theirs. That's not all going to be down to the actual player. That's down to good coaching as well. You have a look at Anthony Lynn. Well, he must have done well enough to get a head coaching job, and he didn't do that badly with it. I mean, it is potentially unfair to get sacked in the way he did, and very successful as a coordinator. Mark Brunell, we don't know yet, but obviously he's got terrific acumen, and he's stayed coaching, just not at this level. So he's not entirely inexperienced at this, but we'll find out with him, to be seen. Antoine Randall has to be one of the best wide receiver coaches out there at the moment. It just seems like wide receivers he touches do much better than when he's not there, and I don't think that's coincidence. Hank Fraley, we know about. He's been here and he's done it. Aaron Glenn, that New Orleans secondary has been absolutely exemplary when he's been the defensive backs coach there. You have the DB coach Aubrey Pleasant, the LA Rams in the secondary. What can you say? These guys are not just players who happen to now be coaches and we're hoping they're going to work out. These are proven guys on the whole. Like, we're going to get a big uptick on the basis of the fact that these guys have actually proven over the last few years that they can do it already. Rant over.
And they're going to do it their own way as well. There's going to be no interference like we've seen in previous regimes. Everyone's sticking their fucking R in. I'm looking at you, Matt Patricia.
But the thing is, this is going to be a far more high-pressure situation than they've ever been in. You know, you're not at New Orleans anymore with the infrastructure there. You're at a team that's been traditionally bad for a long time, and you're under the spotlight of the American media in a negative way. You know, this is, you know, they've done well, but we're going to have to wait and see what they do first, because this is an entirely different type of pressure cooker here.
Just going through a couple of the chat comments. Steve O says he would say that 5 years under Sean Payton was good for Dan Campbell. Fan Man says that Trufant is now a bear. That's kind of glorious. Zach J said he never understood Bob Quinn's infatuation with signing all of these injury-prone guys. Antonio Jenkins talking about the fact he didn't like the signing of Trey Flowers at 5 or 6 sacks a year wasn't worth $90 million for that period of time. I'm going to defend Flowers to his death just because he's consistent, he's good against the pass and the run, and pressure rate is far more important than sack rate. He doesn't have to be the one getting the sacks. He needs to be the one penetrating. And, okay, he isn't the one that finishes it off, but I really think that Flowers is going to be an important piece for this team, but we'll see. Fan Man has also said Todd Wash is the truth, and I am all behind that. Todd Wash, the DC of the Jags, who took one of the youngest secondaries in the league and made them a passable unit pretty quickly last year, and he's come to be our D-line coach. Amazing work. Sorry, Ant.
Oh, I've lost my thought. I think I was going to go back to Flowers there. I was just going to say, you know, the money, he wasn't worth that contract, and I think that at the end of the day is what he's going to be judged against.
Yeah,
I think he's done all right here, but if you're judging it against the value for money, then it's really bad, really bad.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Can't argue with that. Right, let's get on to the two bits of news. The last two bits of news that we have came out today. First of all, Aaron Rodgers turned down a 2-year extension to his contract, which would have made him the highest paid player in the league. Now, he's already one of the highest paid players in the league, so that's not saying much. But he doesn't want to be there. He might still be there. He doesn't want to be. That's clear. So, I know we've talked about Aaron Rodgers to death, but it's kind of funny, right?
It is. Right? Yeah, to see how they've... I mean, everyone says he's a diva and all this, but you can understand where he's come from in the grand scheme of things. They have done seemingly everything in their power to try and piss him off there. I mean, from not backing him last year when he got them, you know, he was one of the massive reasons they've got to the last 2 championship games. And, you know, I mean, last year maybe a bit less so, but the year before, you know, they rode him big time. And then to sign his replacement, give away draft picks and not give him any new weapons to work with to get them there. And, you know, it's just like, you know, with Kumaro, the fucking wide receiver there. He said he was one of the best players on the team and he loved throwing to him, and they cut him the next day. It's just like, fuck's sake, really? Are you really going to ignore the advice of a quarterback who's going into the Hall of Fame? And I think they've treated him really fucking poorly, and they, hopefully he does go elsewhere. We'd all be glad to see the back of him, but I can understand why he's so pissed with him.
You can tell that Ant's been working and has just come back with the amount of fucks in the broadcast. Ryan, what do you reckon, man?
It's funny. I don't think it changes his immediate future. I still don't see him being traded because I see a lack of suitable places that'll tick all his boxes. So I think he's still going to be here next year, whether how much he plays or not. Like, he's obviously, his future doesn't lie there. He's obviously not happy. He don't care about money. They can't buy his silence or keep him around just with a bit of extra green. But I think for right now, for me, it doesn't change all that much. I'm still anticipating him to be there this year and be the starting quarterback, unless something dramatic changes. But I think it says a lot about really where his head's at. Like you say, like, he won't be bought, he won't be silenced. Like, it's just another big middle finger to an organisation that's clearly pretty shitty. Like I say, if we'd have done this to Stafford, we'd have all been fuming. Like you say, the fans must be, it's awful, like you say. And the biggest consequence is all this is probably going to make Devontae Adams leave as well. I don't think he'll resign.
It's going to be funny, man. I mean, I can see them using the tag on Adams, but whether that will work, I don't know. Steve O makes a good point in the chat about Flowers. He says that the Lions have to pay him an extra $15 million to get him to stop signing with Miami and come here instead. That state tax is hard to compete with for the teams that have a state tax. And it's a really fair point, because you've got to bring them in line where they're actually making the same money in places, because it's a competitive advantage. In a system designed for equality, Floridian teams and Texas teams, I think, have a massive advantage over the rest of the system. And I mean, in the case of the Houston Texans, okay, you give it to them, that's fine. But the Cowboys don't need help. And, right now, Miami do not need help. That team is loaded. But if you give them I don't know what the state taxes are, but let's say it's 20%. So you're telling me I have 20% less money than everyone else? Like, it's not right. I don't know how you change it particularly, but it's not right. It can't be right. Anyway, never mind. Final bit of news.
We don't do politics.
No.
We don't get I don't.
I'm an accountant. I have to be interested about tax. I have to. Otherwise, I'm not a real accountant. Final bit of news. Cam Akers has been ruled out of the 2021 season, running back from the LA Rams with a torn Achilles. Caption, poor Matthew Stafford. It does seem like everywhere he goes, running backs get injured. And, I mean, this one happened away from the team facility, so it's not even, it can't even be pinned on him in a sort of Scooby-Doo type way. Let's see who really injured you. No, it's not like that at all, but man, the guy can't catch a break. Because I feel bad for, because it was just exciting to watch him last year really kind of break out and come into his own. But Stafford needs a run game to succeed. And you know what? I want the Rams to fail as much as anyone, but I kind of want Stafford to succeed too. And it just sucks for player and team, really.
I don't know. It's a shame for Akers. It's a shame for Akers. I mean, the running back, being a running back, it's a tough life. Shorter career maybe than a lot of others, less chances to get big money, and he's done his Achilles in his second year. I mean, that could be a big blow to him, and he's going to take over that backfield and potentially become one of the best running backs in the game. But it's really sad for him, and you kind of hope he comes back and does well. But as for the rest of it, Stafford's gone. I'm over this now. He gets on how he gets on. I don't really care anymore. In the greatest of respect to him, we need to move on. This is what this is all about. This is a new Detroit team here. Let's stop focusing on our past, because it's not really worth shouting over.
There's a lot of fans having a meltdown, but not being funny. Have you seen how many free agent running backs there are? It's not exactly hard to find depth.
You've got Level.
You've got Adrian Peterson. He's just come off a great year. He said he's going to play. He's fully healthy. He could step right into that running back too. People need to calm down, and they're a contender. He will walk to play with Stafford again. Like, I guarantee, like I say, they'll be on the phone to him and he'll be like, yeah, I'll come play. It'll be cheap too.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Right, that's the end of the news. Let's move it on. So, get to the main bulk of the pod. Only 50 minutes in. No, it's probably half an hour in with about a 20-minute wait. But anyway, we are here to talk about 2022 NFL Draft. So, fast forward 9 months. Is it 9 months? About 9 months until the NFL Draft. We're picking. We still have a hole at linebacker and safety. We've decided not to address it this year. We're just going to run with Will Harris as strong safety. We're running with Alex Anzalone and a Derek Barnes who is a rookie. Let's say that he has a rookie-style linebacker season, which, let's be fair, most rookie linebackers are fucking shite, just because linebacker is really hard to play. So, Jamie Collins might move on at the end of next year. There is a glaring need at linebacker. There is a glaring need at safety. Well, who would we have liked to watch? If we could wind back to now, who would we have said we'd watch? Well, that's why we're here. So, we're going to start off with linebackers. And I took the lead on this one. I've been crunching the tape all week. That's a lie. I crunched the tape for a day. It's probably a lie too. But I looked at some tape. It happened. And I chose 5 linebackers. And I've also got a wild card as well to have a look at too. And we're going to start with Christian Harris from Alabama. This is a guy who is rated as one of the best college linebackers right now from various publications. He's the #1 inside linebacker per Pro Football Network. He's the #1 linebacker in mock drafts from Tankathon. So this guy cannot be ignored. 6'2", 232 pounds, makes him the joint highest weight guy on this board. And I watched a bit of his tape, and he is a big guy. 6'2", 232. The guy is stacked, but he doesn't look like it. He hits really hard. You can tell he makes smart decisions when it comes to playing in coverage and playing run defense. He lights people up for breakfast. Like, it just seems to come really naturally to him. He's aggressive, but he doesn't overcommit. He's a kind of instinctual guy in the same sort of way that Nick Bolton was this year, but he's a lot more athletic than that. The guy just excites me out the gate. I do worry that potentially he's going to be drafted too high for the Lions. Not drafted so high that we're going to take him with our #1 pick, because I don't think we'll take a linebacker that high, but maybe a little bit too high for the Rams pick if the Rams are good. That's my only concern with picking this guy in the first place. It just a sort of mold. If you wanted to create a typical linebacker for the NFL right now in terms of big enough to play in the run but not too big, and light enough to play in coverage, this is the guy. Christian Harris, Alabama boys. Have you seen too much of him at all?
This is the guy, like you've just said. If you were to say, out of these 2 weeks that we've been looking at college prospects and all the guys we're going to go over or have gone over, if you were to ask which one would you draft now if you had the chance, because obviously some of them need to get more consistent, so better, this is the guy you'd draft right now. I mean, he hits like a freight train, but he moves like a receiver. This guy was, in high school, he played a bit of receiver, he played a bit of cornerback, so he's got the move sets, the versatility, the athletic ability that those positions have, but he has the pure strength of a full-blown linebacker. And with these hybrid skills, I mean, I've watched his tape. I've watched a lot of his tape. I mean, the guy's got 14.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks in just 2 years, won a shortened year last year. I mean, he gets into the backfield consistently. When he hits you, you don't get back up, and he doesn't miss his tackles. And honestly, I'm really excited to watch him this year, because if he has another good year, he needs to be in serious. He's in Parsons type territory for me. He's maybe in 6, 7, 8 contention. If you're in that sort of area, I'd be quite happy if he has another year like he did to be taking him there. The most important thing I've not even got to yet, it's his leadership. He's a born leader. You look to that Alabama defense, he's one of the main guys on there, one of the ones they look to run that ship. So you take his leadership, you take his ability to blitz, he's even good in coverage. Like you said, he doesn't look the most nimble guy, but he is. His coverage skills, I expected him to be pretty weak, but he's not. For me, there's not a glaring weakness in his game. He just needs to carry on developing as college players do and go into an even higher level. So for me, I'm well happy, and he's the one I'm going to be keeping a really close eye on out of all the linebackers. Because if, even if Barnes has a good year, I think we're all in agreement Jamie Collins will probably go. We're going to need an inside linebacker, a leader in there to go forward. And he's absolutely a guy I'd be happy with us taking now. And I wouldn't say that about anyone else that we've done so far.
I agree. This is a big year for him because Dylan Moses is gone now. So he's going to have more weight on his shoulders to carry this defense as a pure leader this year. Like I said, it's 6'2", 232. He doesn't have the length, like he's a bit stockier than you would expect. Like I say, when he shows blitz but drops back into coverage, his movement from side to side across the field is very good. He's very nimble. He flips his hip quite well. He's pretty fluid. Like I say, the most important play is he's finishing. He wraps up. He's a great form tackler. He'll shoot the hole. He can get into the backfield. And when he hits someone, they stop. Like, he stops their momentum, which is key for when he's tackling running backs. Like, playing against the run, he's perfect as like a Mike linebacker. Like, you can trust him on the inside. I'd put him there on an island in the middle, and I trust him to have the IQ to make the right decision. Like I say, I think he's going to be somewhere like 10 to 15. He's going to be like one of the middle kind of guys in the first round, potentially, with another good year. He's going to be key to Bama's defense if they're going to return to a national championship this year. I think he's probably one of the most pro-ready talents right now. So I think he's someone that we should definitely have a look on.
Yeah, I think he'd be ready to actually play in the NFL right now. I mean, I don't think he would do too. I think they would be throwing him to the wolves a bit. But in the same way that you're going to be doing to Barnes this year, I think that if you put them in right now, that they're different players, but in terms of production, I think you'd see something pretty similar. Barnes is a year further along. In fact, he's 2 years further along because I think Harris is a junior, or going to be a junior this year. So, with 2 years extra experience, I think they'd be in about a similar place. Let's move on to my second guy, and that's Ventrell Miller. For Florida, he's 6'1", 230, so an inch smaller and only 2 pounds lighter, so maybe a bit heavier per inch. He plays in a 3-4 scheme similar to Detroit. He tends to be the Mike, but he can line up on the edge. His coverage skills are questionable, but there's lots of tape where he's very good at run defense, very good with the instincts in run defense. Actually, I mentioned the guy that I really didn't like last year, linebacker Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton is this guy, like, not particularly mobile, but supremely intelligent. You can see it pop off tape. It's really, really impressive what he can do, but he's going to commit penalties as well as his other thing. I don't know whether it's not smart. It's that he needs to rein it in a bit sometimes. And, that's the way you want it to be. You want people to be aggressive and rein it in. But, you can see him sometimes lead with the head. And I just fear that he's going to get ejected in a few games. The other thing that I have with Ventrell Miller is that in his freshman year at Florida, he was caught up in the credit card scandal there, the scam. And, I mean, that's a pretty big red flag. I don't care who you are. If you're looking like you could get in the NFL, stay away from a scam. For God's sake, what's wrong with you? Like, it blows my mind. And, other people caught up in that included Antonio Callaway, who's obviously in the NFL now. Just to break down Miller's stats, he has played 3 years at Florida. He's been there for 30 games, made 156 tackles, 87 solo, 15 of which were a loss, 7.5 sacks, and 1 interception, which was an 82-yard pick six in his freshman year, which is pretty impressive. 5 passes defended, all in the last 2 years, and a fumble recovery. When I saw that he'd been caught up in the scam, I immediately was like, maybe I won't cover this guy. But if you look at him on tape, it's hard to ignore him. Ryan, what do you think?
I agree. Like when you do something your freshman year stupid, it's going to go with you for the rest of your life. But all you can hope is that he's learned from it, he's paid his dues, like you say, like he showed clear remorse because he wasn't kicked off the team, like you say, and some of the other teammates that were older that have gone on to still have successful careers. So you hope it's never held against him. But his play speaks for itself, like you say. He's incredibly aggressive, like you say. Targeting, I know he's had quite a few targeting calls. He's been lucky like the odd ejection. So he needs to slow it down a bit, learn to get his head out the play, lift it up a bit. Like that's just going to come with practice and technique. He's going to need the right coaching, I think, to hopefully work on that. But he's got, like I say, he's all around pretty good. Like I say, he's got the interception, the fumble, like a lot of solo tackles. So he reads defenses pretty well. Like I say, he's got the IQ, so at line of scrimmage, he can make a good estimate what gap he needs to fill or who's going to come out to block him if he's able to beat them. So he's going to be someone that relies on that, trying to decipher defenses before the snap, try to work out the snap count. So he runs quick, like you say. He's very, he works on his own timing, like you say. So he will get caught out. He will make the own play. So you're going to have to take the good with the bad with him. There are going to be mistakes. He is going to draw penalties. But for all that, you're going to get some really good play from a solid guy that is like I say, he's a bit stockier for his height. So he's very stout in the middle. He can work on the coverage. Like I say, it's going to be a big year for him, but he's got potential to be a solid starter at the next level. But it's very hard to gauge what his ceiling is draft-wise or where it could be taken. It depends all, like I say, the amount of discipline he's willing to show this year.
What do you think, Ant?
So I've watched a fair bit of tape on him. The thing that immediately comes to mind, he's the best blitzer of these five, and I think it's not even close when it comes to this. His blitz ability is amazing. You see him, he'll take a couple of, he'll not just go straight in on the blitz. He'll take a couple of steps. He'll read how the play is going, and then, I mean, he just gets to full speed so quick. He'll spot a gap. He'll spot a block. He'll be through it, and it's like short speed is exceptional. And when you mix this in with the sideline to sideline speed, which again is probably the best of them all, it's like quarterbacks, running backs, they're in danger every single play, whether they go out wide, whether they go down the middle. He just seems to be able to track them down like a laser. And I absolutely love that about him. So from that point of view, I really like that. Again, as it's been mentioned various times, his coverage is not as great. So that's what you'll be looking to see him improve this year. If he can keep that blitz ability and get his coverage skills up, then you're going to have a hell of a player who's going to be going high in the draft next year. So it's one to watch out for, but the coverage is really an issue there. And as for the fraud, I mean, I hope he's, I sort of hope he's given the same short shrift that Parsons was given last year. People said, oh yeah, we're not going to take a player who's got issues in the past, who's done this. Well, I hope they give him the same amount of scrutiny as they did Parsons with it, because it's still quite a bad thing what he did. Like I said, there's a red flag there, and I'd rather we stay away if we're going to do that. In fairness, if that's how we're going to sort of go, we're going to keep the problem ones there. He may be not one I'm going to be looking for us, but we'll see.
I think the thing for me is my preference in linebacker is to be good in coverage, because you can always bulk up and be trained to be a good run defender. But coverage is far harder, more instinctual, harder to teach. And the NFL's a passing league. I know it's that trope which is over and over again, but it's true. The only good NFL linebackers, and there's not many of them, there's probably less than the number on one hand that I would say are elite linebackers, really. They're all good in coverage, and they're passable in run defense. That's how you make the elite linebacker these days, because they have to be able to play in the slot, play the nickel defense. They have to, every now and again, when you're playing in man and suddenly your guy then lines up on the outside, you're playing outside cornerback. You have to be able to play on the edge as well as Mike. You have to be able to do all these things. And if you're slow, they'll find a way to exploit you eventually. And we see that with Tavai, and I really hope that Tavai comes on. But there's at some level the lack of twitch is gonna do for him at the elite level. It really will. I'll move on to my next guy now, and the tallest of the lot, Devin Lloyd from Utah, 6'3", 232. He also plays in a 3-4, so very transferable when it comes to our new scheme. But he plays all over the field. The tape that I saw, he took reps in one game at Mike, at outside corner, at nickel, at the Leo. I think he might have played a bit at safety as well. He is a high school safety convert too, so he's got the experience of doing that. He's a very tall guy. It really shows up. He looks taller than 6'3". He's got the twitch. Like, there's just something like the sort of explosion that we're seeing from Derek Barnes. He's got that, but with a 6'3" frame, as opposed to a 6-foot frame, and it's really impressive. He's very good in coverage. He's the guy that's not particularly good at run defense, needs to get a bit stronger. And you wouldn't think that at 232 pounds, but his functional strength isn't there yet, and he needs to spend a bit of time in the weight room and a bit of time learning technique, learning to kind of set his feet in the right way, lean, and sort of tackling technique. Like, it really frustrates me that it seems like a fairly basic skill, really, just needs a bit of dedication. But the traits that I talked about earlier that I really want in a linebacker are there. But the biggest thing about him is his football IQ. He will look at what's happening at the mic, recognize mismatches, call a play that they've already called a play. He will change the play. And then I think there's an example which is talked about on Pro Football Network in their scout report, that he moved himself from Mike and emptied out to the edge. And he was a free rusher and got a sack because he changed the play for himself, recognizing something in the offense that wasn't accounted for. So the guy sees it. He's athletic, and he knows what he's doing. So that's really, really impressive. Have you guys seen much of Devin Lloyd? I guess Ryan has seen more, but I'm not sure.
Watching Pac-12 football, I have seen some of him. Yeah, like you say, it shows supreme confidence from a defensive coordinator to tell a player that you can change the play at the line of scrimmage depending on what you see. Like, as long as you let everyone know, you can make your own decision and take what the offense gives you. And then to execute and pick up a sack, that shows a high level of IQ, understanding that he gets what is happening on the other side of the ball. And that is half the battle. That is the leading up to the play is where the play can be won or lost. And he's able to make up for that lack of stout run defense up the middle, which needs to be learned in his anticipation. And that twitch that he's got is a thing most linebackers don't have, but a lot of safeties do. When you're able to bulk up a bit and then make your way down the field towards the box, you take the best bits of being a safety like that, able to come downhill quickly, also flip your hips, and you're able to migrate that with some ability to absorb a blow from a running back or fill a gap and play inside the middle. Like, there's the combination there to be an excellent hybrid at the next level. And that's how the NFL is working now. It's hybrids. It's like your Divine Diablo, who is actually quite a good comparison because a very similar build. Like you say, Buda Baker, like these missile kind of linebacker safeties. Jamal Adams, like you say, like he's basically a linebacker now because he racks up sacks. So these are becoming a more common household name these days. And he's probably one of the best examples of it right now, especially on this list.
How about you, Ant?
This is my second favourite guy. I think probably out of the 5 that you've put up for us here. I think you've raised one of the big points already. It's his football IQ. Now, it wasn't just in that certain situation which he changed the field, but there are multiple examples of him changing the defensive structure because he's looking at where the mismatches are. And for someone like Dan Campbell, who thrives on apparently using the mismatches in there, that's the type of player you want. Now, you know how big I am with my linebackers. I want all linebacker. I want like a Luke Keithley linebacker, the one who really takes hold of that defense. I'm not saying he's going to be him. I'm not saying that for 1 second, but I want a guy who's got the IQ, who's going to marshal that defense, who's going to be looking for things like this. And that's not a natural skill. I mean, well, it is. It's a natural skill. Not many players have that. And that immediately stands out as a huge positive to me.
I know what you mean. Like, it's a skill which is unnatural. Like, how does someone have the ability to do it?
Exactly. And that immediately draws like him into me, because I want someone like that on our team. So that's a big thing for me. But I mean, look at his stats over the last 2 years. He's had 2 seasons, 145 tackles, 21 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks. Now, the tackles for loss, that was for 94 yards. He's averaging 4.5 yards every tackle for loss. And on his sacks, it's 64 yards. So it's about 7. So he gets far into the backfield. 7 yards on quarterbacks, 4.5 on running backs. So the guy can blitz, the guy can get in there, he can marshal his defense. You know, there's a lot to like about him here. And yes, he may need a little bit of help against the run. He may need a little bit of, polishing. But these are college players who are going to need that. The main things he needs, his versatility, his leadership, the blitz ability, they're there. And they're there to be utilized. So I'm going to be really interested to see him this year, because if he has a really good year and he makes big strides, he's going to be right on my radar for someone I'm going to want us to be after. Because again, I think like Harris, he's a leader on the defense, and we need one of those, especially if Collins ain't going to be here next year. That's one big thing I'm looking for in my linebacker. He's got to have leadership qualities. So yeah, after Harris, I'm really looking forward to seeing him. I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on him. There's a lot to like with him.
And for me, someone who's actually quite a similar player, just a slightly smaller frame, 6'1", 222 from Auburn, is Owen Papo. Also plays in a 3-4, mainly at the mic. He doesn't move around as much, but he can rush off the edge. A very, very athletic guy. He lacks more than Lloyd, I would say, in tackling and run defense. So we already said that Lloyd is not the best at that, or Papo's slightly worse, but he's still got it in coverage. Just the sort of twitch that you're looking for. He's the signal caller for the team on defense, like Lloyd is. Proper sideline to sideline ability, as I say, elite athlete. But that run D really shows up. Like, if he came up against a team where that is their primary focus, or just they're going to do the thing that you're bad at, so let's say, I don't know, you're playing the Patriots, they're just going to run down your throat with this guy. But against teams that can only pass, and I'm thinking of people like Kansas City, he's going to do a job for you, and I'm excited to see whether he can actually make some improvements in that run defense, because I'm not buying him at the moment on that basis alone, but he can get there. I think so. What do you think, Ant?
I'm not sold on him. I know there's a lot of buzz around him, and athletically, he's probably the most gifted one of these 5 linebackers. I mean, he ran a 4.47 40-yard dash already, and I mean, for a linebacker, I think it's about 4.65 for an inside linebacker, 4.75 for an outside, which is meant to be the norm. He's already run a sub 450, and he's probably only going to get quicker. But for me, his frame's just such a big issue. You watch the tape, and I mean, he can't blitz unless there's a proper running lane open, because he's just not able to go up against defensive linemen and win. And, he has trouble with blocking, and he has trouble dealing with the bigger type of runner. I'm not saying that, but you're like your Derrick Henry-esque guys. I mean, I guess Najee Harris would be the best one from last year. Those type of guys just ball over him. So, yeah, I'm just not sold. I think there's too many issues there with the size, and I just don't see what he's going to bring that, that some of these other guys won't, and more. So for me, he's not one I'm really going to be looking at this year. Like I say, the size for me is just too much of an issue, and he's not shown that he can overcome it. So, yeah.
What about you, Ryan? You as down as Ant?
I do have the worries about like the ceiling for his run defense with the frame he's got, and his willingness, his lack of willing to do the dirty work and put himself in the way is very worrying, especially when you just look at the division we're playing. I ask myself, if Aaron Jones and Dalvin Cook are going to like pound down the middle at him every time, is he going to be able to take that on a play-to-play basis? Is he going to be able to get down low, wrap up and squeeze and bring one of them down? I just have questions about that. I think that is his biggest flaw. And I think it's the easiest to highlight as well, because like I say, without a clean rushing lane, like a blitzer is no good as a linebacker, because they're very rarely going to come up where you get a free hole right through the middle, unless it's like a trap. Like I said, they could easily pick him off, pulling a guard or a lineman. Like, is he going to be able to read that if they just let him come right through? So I do have issues where I feel like he has got limitations with that frame, no matter how much he practices.
Just to go through some of the stats for those guys, because I didn't actually list him, for Devin Lloyd, I'm not going to count his freshman year because he played 3 games and had 6 tackles, and that was it. Taking his last 2 years, he's had 21 tackles for a loss. What the hell? I know Pac-12 is weak, but it's weak on defense, right? Not on offense.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. 8.5 sacks and an interception. Like that is proper production at the college level. Owen Papo, we've just talked about, he's played 24 games in the last 2 years, 142 tackles. Last year, in 11 games, 93 tackles. That's properly impressive. 9 tackles were for a loss, 6 sacks, 1 interception this year. Going into our final guy, it's Mike Jones Jr. Now, the guy I actually know the least out of this lot, but I'm hoping you guys know a bit more because he's played at Clemson the last few years. Transferred to LSU this offseason, so we'll be stepping into the mold of Jabril Cox, who obviously declared, and I think they had another linebacker go into the NFL as well this year, so a couple of holes there. He's only 6 foot and only 220 pounds, but his run D and tackling needs improvement. But this guy is properly good in coverage, and while tape was hard to come by for me for Mike Jones, I watched a lot of commentators talk about him, and when it came to talking about Clemson last year, they weren't talking, when opponents were coming to talk about who's playing for Clemson today, it wasn't, is Trevor Lawrence playing? Because the backup's just going to run you over anyway too. It's, are players like Mike Jones playing? Because he makes a fundamental difference to that defense. The guy is supreme in coverage. So I don't know if you guys have seen him. We've talked about before, there are guys out there who are going to struggle against the run. But for Clemson, he kind of took over for Isaiah Simmons, who obviously declared in the 2020 NFL draft. And he got 52 tackles, 8 for a loss, 5 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, and a half a sack over 555 snaps in his 28 career games with Clemson. He was an second team all ACC selection by PFF. That's not bad.
It depends what you define. I mean, 9 games last year and just 26 tackles is it's not a lot. I mean, he's not played that much. I mean, you put the list out and I tried to find stuff and there's just nothing there. There's very, very little tape on him. It's a weird one. But, the only thing I really have to go on here is his stats. And there's just not that. Yeah, he's had a few tackles for loss and that, but it's not. One, you've not got the volume. You need to see how he copes with a full season. A lot of reps, a lot of tackles. There's just not the volume to make a judgment there. I think obviously with him being LSU, he's going to be in the spotlight, and if he does well, then all of a sudden there's going to be a lot of people with eyes on him. But I couldn't really put much together for this one. Like I said, it's just there's not the footage, the tape there, and there's not the number of plays and that you want to be able to make a definitive view on him. Like you say, yes, there are good traits in there, but you've got to see them more consistently. I mean, 3 years and he's not really held down a starting spot. That is a concern.
I feel like the excelling at the coverage and less of the tackling probably puts him more in the Jacoby Stevens role at LSU than it would the Jabril Cox. Like, I think he's probably going to be a hangback. Like, he could well be more aligned to, like, say, maybe a box safety hybrid linebacker, because I feel like he's going to struggle at line of scrimmage. Like, he's not made that many notable plays, so I feel like against the bigger boys, he's not going to try and want to get too mixed up, like with his hands. So I do question his ability there. Like I say, I've watched a lot of Clemson games, but it's more you don't hear his name called for making mistakes. So I feel like he's more consistent than he is a standout player. He's part of a very solid unit. So I feel like he could well be a project to the next level. He's obviously got sound fundamentals, like saying the coverage, but the lack of potential on run defense is quite worrying. So it would have to be a later round pick. But if he's able to learn that and take on board, sure, I'll give him a go.
I think the thing that stood out to me is that linebackers tend not to get interceptions. I've just kind of seen this through all the stats I see. It doesn't really happen. And then he's played in his games. He's played 20 games with Clemson, but you can see that he actually isn't playing that many snaps really over his college career. And he got 2 interceptions in his most recent year. That's rare. You know, sometimes interceptions are fortuitous, but I feel like he's going to be a guy who's going to find himself in the right place at the right time more often than not. I hope that's borne out over this next year, because I'm going to look at him a lot.
But linebackers are known for their tackling, and there's not very many tackles in there. So it's
true.
Both ways. And like I say, until you see him for a full year, going through the full volume, knowing how he can cope with it, etc., it's very hard to make a judgment call at the minute. But I'd say he's definitely on the to-watch list, the intrigue list.
Yeah. Right, before we move on to our wildcards, I don't know if you guys have got wildcards, but there was a question I promised I'd ask from Antonio Jenkins. He said, I know the season hasn't started yet and we haven't seen the players play, but we have 2 first-rounders. If you were picking today, based on where we think we're going to pick, who would you draw or what positions would you take? Just very quickly, position, quick reason. Let's not spend too much time on this, but just to give the man what he wants. And what do you reckon? Quick bat.
For linebacker, wide receiver.
Ryan?
Quarterback, wide receiver.
I'm going to go edge wide receiver in that order. I think Thibodeau and Olave, maybe we could be in the range for, possibly. That's my thinking anyway. Anyway, hope that's good with you, man. Answering your questions when you need it. Okay, moving on to wildcards. Maybe I'll go last. I've talked enough. So who has anyone got a wildcard?
I do. Right, so wildcard I've gone for is former teammate of our own Levi Onwuzurike. So this is Edefwan Ulofoshio from the Washington Huskies. So he's a guy he's not started too many games so far in his career there, and I think that's probably worked against him a little, but you know, the stats he's garnering in these starts are really good. So he's got 7 starts in 20 games in total. He's got 62 solo tackles, 34 assisted tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, averaging 9 yards of loss, 4 sacks at 35 yards of loss. So that's nearly 9 yards per sack. Again, a guy who gets really far into the backfield, you know, when going after quarterbacks. He's got the speed to do so. It's 4 passes defended, 4 forced fumbles, 2 of those are recoveries. And I mean, this is a guy who, when he came out of high school, he was ranked, get this, 2,629th in his recruit class. This is a guy who was not on anyone's radar whatsoever. But I mean, he's had a slow start to his Huskies career, but as he's gone along, he's just growing and growing, and there's just a really good player emerging. So he averages 7 tackles per game when he starts, which is more than any other of the linebackers we've discussed so far. But you've also got to look at the pedigree of where he's coming from. The Huskies, they had 4 guys drafted last year. All of them were on defense, like I say, including Levi for us. This is a place that has a good defensive coordinator. He creates really good defenders there, and you know you're going to be getting something good with him. So he's 6 foot, which is maybe a bit low, but he's 230 pounds. He's got really good frame to him. So for me, this is another guy whose blitz is superb, and the thing that really stands out for him. So he usually starts quite far back, and what he does is he just powers up straight away, you know, getting up to real high speeds. And there's so many examples of him. He's able to almost bull rush offensive linemen. He just flies into them and knocks them off their perch. I mean, it's beautiful to see. He just hits them hard, moves them out the way, and gets straight through to the quarterback. And there's just something really good about the way he goes about it. And this is, he does it quite often. This isn't just a one-off thing. So for me, yeah, the blitz there is absolutely amazing. His IQ is really good. He's great at reading the quarterback, where the passes are going, what he's going to do. And you'll see him set off to, make the interceptions for passes before the quarterback's even thrown, because he's seen the read, he knows where he's going, and he's straight in there. And, that's another thing. I value IQ, as I've already said. I love his blitz skills. He's good at tackling. His run stuffing is also really good. And he's actually really good in coverage. So he's got a good foundation in all facets of what you want from a linebacker. Now, all you need to see this year, one, is him need to start more games, and two, you just want to see, improvement across the board, as you do, but he's at a good level and he's proven he can do everything about it. So for me, if I see a really good year out of him, and I'll watch closely, because I think he's one we could maybe get a little later on who might be under the radar. I really like him. I love watching his tape. I love what he does. Just needs to be more consistent as a starter. So he's the one I'm recommending you watch this year.
I've got a wild card too. My player is Merlin Robertson. He is one of the highest. He's one of the quickest growing names. He's given a lot of momentum. He was the Pac-12 Defensive Freshman of the Year, his freshman year. He's amassed over 150 tackles. He's got 5 sacks. He's got 5 forced fumbles. He's got an interception every year. He's 6'3" and 250. So he's dominating. He plays against the run very well, but he's deceptively agile. He's got athleticism that allows him to drop into coverage. He can pick up tight ends, but he's also able to get out the flats and pick up a running back that goes out, and he tackles really well. He's a leader in his defense. He's one of his players. He made the Dick Butkus Award final last year for one of the best 2020 linebackers. So he's getting that national recognition. He has got really long arms. Like, he's got the length to go with his size and speed. I think all round, he's just a really strong, solid linebacker. No real areas of weakness. I think it's more this year is going to be a big one to improve his stock. Right now, he's floating probably around the middle 2 to 4 rounds, but I think with a really good year, you could see him push up into the high seconds. I think he's going to be someone that's going to get a lot of watch this year on a defense that's producing a few decent players. Herm Edwards came in and he's worked really well with him, and Antonio Pierce. So he's someone that's actually thrived off of NFL caliber coaching. So he's got a high IQ. He's able to take on board what they're giving him. And he's just an impressive all-round, really strong young man. And I think at the next level, he's going to be able to compete with some of the bigger running backs, pick up a tight end. So he's got that frame. There's a lot to work with. So I think he's someone that's really going to tick a few boxes this coming draft.
What was his name again? Say Merlin Robertson.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That was one that was not on my radar at all. So cool. I like that. Right, my guy is DeMarvion Overshown. It's the best name in college football that I've seen so far. Playing for a Texas team that's not the best, we'll say, but 6'4", 217 pounds. It's a unique frame for a linebacker. The guy, I mean, I don't know anyone in football that looks like that. Just tall and thin. Like, this isn't who the Rams took with their second round pick, who was small and thin. Who's the wide receiver who went to the Rams?
Tutu Atwell.
Tutu Atwell, yeah. It doesn't look spindly like him. There's some meat to the bones of him, but what linebacker 6'4", less than 220? Like, it doesn't make sense, but this is the guy I am most excited about out of all of these guys. He plays in a 4-3, so he'd have to learn a different system if he was going to come to us. But he lines up at all 3 linebacker spots. He lined up at the Michael, Will, and the Sam. It didn't matter where he was. He could move around a lot. He lines up on the slot, in the slot. He lines up on the outside. He's a converted high school safety again. So he has that sort of safety mentality where he's see ball, hit ball sort of guy. Is really, really exciting. in the TCU game, there's a sack that he puts on the quarterback where he just reads the zone read perfectly, and he absolutely levels him. Like, you can see the fear of God be put into the quarterback. It's an absolutely terrific thing to see. His run D needs to improve, and I mean, I think that's just a function of his weight. He just needs to put the pounds on. He's got the frame to do it, and strength is also an issue. Yeah, it's part of the same thing, really. But pure physical tools, this is the guy. He is a unique prospect in the draft that hopefully will declare this season. I want him very, very much. In terms of where he might go, I think he's got a really big range. If he has an elite year this year, I could see him going low in the first. But if he carries on the way he is, I could see him going in the third or fourth right now. Just people kind of banking on his upside. I know we haven't really discussed any of the wild cards at all, but have you guys heard something from one of the other two that you kind of want to comment on?
I can't say I have just off yet. We've done so much work. We've done so much work on college at the minute. It's a lot to go through, but I'll look forward to seeing them, because I think linebacker is going to be a big thing for us next year. I think we need to really keep a close eye on who's coming through, because we're going to need a top tier one next year.
I have seen some of Demarin Overshown play. I agree. Like I say, the weaknesses, like you say, he's got the. Right now, he relies on his leverage because he's got so much length with his arms, like these swim moves. It's, for me, what I want to see is I want to see him gain the muscle, the weight, and the strength without losing that agility and losing that ability to leverage at line of scrimmage, or able to get around the edge and mess with the quarterback. So if he shows to me that he's able to bulk up while maintaining that twitch ability from playing safety, then his ceiling is very high, because he offers something that you don't get very often in linebackers. That's tall height with long arms, but also the ability to sustain and tackle the bigger backs. Like I say, once he bulks up a bit, he's able to come and meet someone at line of scrimmage. I'll feel a lot more confident in sustaining that tackle. Like I say, and that's just going to come from, like I say, changing his diet. He just needs more pro lifestyle diet, like I say, a bit of discipline. And like I say, once he can pile on the pounds, I think he's someone that's got a good range. Like I say, maybe somewhere between 2 and 4, he might get a potential steal. It's just a big growing up year for him. That's all he needs.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's move swiftly on to safety. And our own Brian McCloskey has been leading this one, so I'm going to hand over to him. Brian, safeties.
Yep, safeties. Like I say, we touched on it earlier. It's a big year for our group of safeties. Tracy Walker is potentially playing for his Detroit career this year. He needs to have a bounce back year if he's going to plan to stick around. Will Harris, for what we've seen from him, he's wildly inconsistent and has given up some large plays. We don't know if he's going to be able to hack it. So it's going to be a few holes that are potentially here to plug next year. Melai Fonwu, we're not sure where exactly this long-range defensive back's going to line up, if he's going to go that far back. So there is going to be a potentially huge clear out. So we're going to have some roster spots going here. For these rankings, I've used Walter Football. It's not what everyone uses, but I like to use it. They have rankings for every single position broken down to a good 20, 25 guys for 2022 NFL draft. So people have a look at that. That's where I will be getting my numbers from. And I've picked 5 guys here. I'm just going to start by saying that I've not chosen Kyle Hamilton, because in my opinion, he's a household name. He's probably going to go in the top 6. So I think he's a bit out of our range. And he's someone that I think is just very well known. His film flashes, it speaks for himself. So these are going to be guys that you don't know, or we're going to be looking at maybe rounds 2 or 3. The first name that is one of the most potentially explosive is Bubba Bolden. He's a 6'3" safety, 92 kilograms, the University of Miami Hurricane, and he's ranked number 6 on Walter Football's list for 2022 NFL safeties. So he's one of those outside projects, but he offers a lot of play. I've taken the stats from their best season. So in 2022, 74 overall tackles, 1 sack, 4 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. And it's easy to say that he is explosive. He hits like a truck. This guy comes down hard from that line of scrimmage and he comes down like a missile. When he hits someone, they stay hit. The issue with that is that sometimes he takes the wrong angles. He can often sometimes overjudge or undershoot a gap when he's trying to pick up someone in the open field. So he'll sometimes grab thin air when he's trying to make a tackle. But I think that's purely technique that's working. I think he can tidy that up because it's just a bit of indiscipline, slowing his play up and breaking down. He's got tons of length, like he's got long arms, he's got a good wingspan, which is going to play to his hands, decent hand size. So someone that's able to wrap up and make a very good form tackle. And he's one of them leaders in that defense. Like when they need someone to come up, if someone misses a tackle and mop up, he's got that ability. And it's important for that for a safety. Like you're the last line of defense, so you've got to be able to come up and deliver a blow when someone gets through the linebacker spot, someone misses a tackle. Like he just needs to remember, like, it's not all about smacking someone, making them bounce off you. It's not all about going and sticking your head in, trying to get the ball out. All I just want to see this year is a bit more discipline from him. But overall, he's got a very good, strong future, probably as a strong safety, more than a free safety. I'd like to see him a bit closer to the line of scrimmage if he's got someone over the top to help him. But I think he's someone that offers a lot of potential in the likes of our game where we may run like that strong safety hybrid package if Will Harris doesn't make it, or if Walker potentially isn't here. So he's someone that could be strongly considered.
There's a comment from Steve O. He says Bubba Bolden could play linebacker IMO. What do you reckon?
I say it yes because he uses a blitzer. The one thing he's going to excel in the combine is like his explosiveness. So I expect him to do well at the shuttle and the cone drills because he moves very quickly across short distances. So he may be able to go on the outside and potentially be used on maybe third downs, and he's going to be used as a blitzer. So that's something he does offer well when it comes up to line of scrimmage as well. So he does offer that range as well.
I must confess, I haven't watched a huge amount of the tape. What I have seen is very, very impressive. Every highlight I saw seemed to be a forced fumble. He had 4 of them last year. Like, that's insane. I think that's partly technique. He seems to kind of almost try and lead with his head to where the ball handler is holding the ball. Like, he's kind of got that technique down to a T. Like you, I just think I want to see a little bit of improvement in some of the areas that he's weaker, which is some sort of generically horrible thing to say, but it does show up on tape, right? There are holes in his technique, so just firm up on that. Otherwise, love him. And
he needs to get his head up, get his head out of the play sometimes. You can't go in like a missile in the NFL because, one, you're going to get hurt. If you don't knock that ball out against these stronger running backs, you're going to expose his neck, which he does at times. And I just think it's safety first, make the tackle, wrap up, and then try and get someone else to punch the ball out. Don't try to do too much. But the aggression there is there. Like I say, he's got explosiveness. Just needs to rein it in a little bit.
Yeah, he looks really good, in fairness. I've watched a bit more tape on him and gone through it. And there are a few things that stood out sort of for me there. I mean, his tackles, he's got more than double the number of solo tackles he does sort of assisted ones. He's very fine in one-on-one situations, in coverage situations. His tackling ability is really good, and there's not many issues that I see there. The 6.5 tackles for loss and the 1 sack, he gets into the backfield very often for a safety. It's not often you might see safeties, getting that much success. And if he was to repeat those numbers this year, that's something that would certainly catch my attention. So, obviously, we've said, the possibility of versatility there, maybe using him as a linebacker as well. If he's got the ability to get into the backfield, then that's something that's going to be coveted highly. However, that Hurricanes defense has lost, obviously, Jalen Phillips and Gregory.
no,
Gregory Rousseau, yes.
Yeah.
But no, he does need to step up this year. There's some leaders that, like, the pressure on the edge now may not be there this year. So, like you say, he may have to work a bit harder at the safety spot because they can't generate pressure up front. So he may have to be asked to play a bit more coverage. I think he was going to say something along them lines.
I think you're right. Earth to Ant. Come in, Ant. No. Right, I'm going to put him on mute so he doesn't disrupt us when he comes back. No? that's not working either. He's gone. Right, never mind. Let's move on to your second pick.
This second one is someone I'm really excited about. Like, this is one of the lesser known guys. His name is Sterling Weatherford. He's from the University of Miami, Ohio, the Red Hawks, and they play in the MAC, the Middle American Conference. He is 6'3" and 100 kilos. So this guy is one of the biggest and rangiest safeties. He is ranked 13 by Walter Football, so he's lower down. I think his range was somewhere between rounds roughly 3 to 7. So it's a big vary, but he is the leader of this defense. He's relied on so heavily. In 2019, 98 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. So, and when you're talking about a game, he's got one of the most rounded well games. Like, he's someone that drops into coverage just as well as he can come up and make a tackle. Like, 98 tackles, he's led the team for most of his years there. So he's able to pick up guys in the open field fantastically, but he's also got that agility, the straight line speed to come down to line of scrimmage and make those tackles. He's asked to do an awful lot where he is someone that's relied on so heavily. So he's got those leadership skills that you're really looking for. Like, the question is, like I say, you're going to look at some of these smaller schools, like, it's the talent, like the teams he's playing against, the MAC conference. But I don't want to lay too heavy on that, because right now it's a big thing, like I say, smaller schools and who they're playing. But for a level of consistency, this guy is someone was a relatively slow starter for his like freshman year to sophomore, but now he's relied on so heavily. There's going to be a lot of eyes watching him this year. And I think a big year for him could do wonders for his stock. And you could see him maybe even rounds 2 or 3. Because when you look at him, like, he's a physical specimen being. If you're going to build a safety, you're probably building like this. Because he's also, I believe, got in the last 2 years 10 passes defended as well. So he's someone that's got a nose for the ball. Like you say, he can drop back and he can get over the top of people, get a hand in where it counts. And if he's able to snag the ball and he's able to return it, because I think one of his interceptions is nearly a 40-yard return. So on average as well, like I say, so when he looks forward and gets the ball in his hands, he's no slouch in a straight line either. So for people don't know him, they're not a great team. They're not going to be fun to watch. But this is a guy you should just watch to circle it, because he'll be all over the field. He'll be doing everything. He'll be calling the plays. I expect him to be one of the signal callers as well, the leads the defense. And he's just got so many traits that are going to look so good at the next level. And he's a smaller school guy that someone's going to fall in love with.
I think the thing for me when I was watching Sterling on tape was that because of the level of competition, he had time to kind of process what was going on and make decisions, and he was still able to affect the plays. If you reduce that time, because the releases are going to be quicker, the offense is going to know what they're doing a bit more, there's going to be a cohesive plan, which is actually going to go out there and target him and try and stop him. Is he going to be able to switch up that decision making and make it instantaneous, an instinctual thing? Because I saw nothing on his tape which said that the instinct was, not that it wasn't there, but he wasn't proving it was there because he didn't have to. That's the biggest worry for me.
He didn't have to rely on that. Like you say, these quarterbacks were dropping back. They were scanning, surveying the field. So he had more than enough time to potentially make up for any mistakes. He was able to paper over any cracks because, like I say, the breakdowns of the play were very slow. So I'd love to see him like against some more potent offenses or in a conference where you're going to expect more firepower on offense. Let's see how quickly he can instantly make a decision. So it's going to be something that's really important. Like I say, so potentially he could have done with grad transferring. I'd have actually loved to see him test himself somewhere at a different team. He would have probably got a decent offer from a Power 5 school. But he's someone he's definitely going to go to the Senior Bowl. He'll probably go he'll be at the Reese's Bowl, being a smaller school name. They like to have him there. So he's going to get a lot of look at with NFL coaches on the bigger screen. So he's going to be on TV this year.
Yeah, and I mean, the guy isn't exactly lowly ranked by World Football number 13, so it's not like he's not getting any buzz. Like, he's getting properly recognised at being at a small school, so there's clearly something there. That's impressive in itself. Let's move on and hope Ant comes back, but I don't know with tech issues. We'll just press on. So who's your number 3 guy?
This is one of the best names in the draft as well. We've got another contender. This is Smoke Monday. What a great name that is. The Auburn safety. I like this guy. So he's from the Auburn Tigers. He's a bit smaller, 6'1", but he's still got a good hefty frame, 93 kilograms. He's number 5, so he's currently the highest safety on World Football's list. He is someone that they were very dependent on returning for the senior year. His Pro Football Draft says he is a leader, so he's highly respected on this defense, and he's someone that's not got a huge body of work. He's not got a huge ton of experience, and the production isn't there necessarily numbers-wise, but there's a highlight play. I think it's a pick 6 against Tennessee in one of his games, which turned the game on its head completely. He's got that special ability to deliver a big game-changing play, get that turnover, force that fumble. In 2020, 73 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. So it speaks for itself there, where he's probably someone that could be better dropping into coverage than he's playing against the run. But that also gives the potential, like, he can generate turnovers, and that is what you expect from a safety. It doesn't always play against the run. Like I say, he's able to go with receivers, track them, make them work, make them contested catches. Like, he's not going to be someone that gives up a reception. He's going to be a guy that was behind the linebacker that you spoke about. So they're going to know each other well. They're going to work well in his zone together because they're roughly the same size. So someone that's got intriguing traits at the next level. All he needs this year is just a bit more production, like you say. He's on like 1.5, 2 years in numbers wise, but he's someone that offers a lot of young raw talent. There's a lot there to work with. So that shows by being 5th on the list, like I say, when he's a bit shorter, but he's got that twitch ability. He's got some decent hands on him as well. So there's something really there to work with.
I mean, the one thing that really stands out when I watched him is the guy is aggressive. Like, you know, you say guys, oh, they hit hard, but this guy has reckless abandon. Like, when the soccer Euros was around, there was some sort of distinction that had to be drawn between like clumsy, aggressive, and dangerous in terms of whether a foul was going to be given as no card, yellow card, red card. I think this guy is bridging the gap between aggressive and dangerous. Like, he flies, and I mean, I think his technique needs to be shown up in his tackling because there's a lot of head leaning forward first. Like, I fear for his health, but the guy will flatten opposition players, and I mean, it's always fun when he gets it right? So, and like you said, he's winning any sort of name draft that you're running. Smoke Monday, you can't get better than that. What do you reckon?
There is a worry. Yeah.
Sorry. No, go for it.
I just said there's a thing in common with all these safeties and linebackers, and it's a worrying trend in college that even though targeting gets called more and more often, more and more players lead with the crown of the helmet. And it's so hard to get them to stop doing it because they're so used to doing it in college. It's getting them to clean up those tackles for the NFL is really important. Like Seattle, Pete Carroll were doing a lot of work working with the teams. Like, this is something that they're all going to have to take on board very quickly because at the next level, they're going to hurt someone else. They're going to hurt themselves. They're going to get ejected. And like a few ejections, like say, you'll get cut pretty quickly. They won't tolerate that in the NFL. So he does need to tackle up what I call is reckless endangerment towards sloppy. But it's not hard. It just takes a little bit of discipline. He could do with working with some other sports, some other athletes, just try work on his technique a little, but we'll see. We'll see this year how he does.
Yeah. And we kind of missed you out when we were talking about Sterling Weatherford, and also we've just talked about Smoke Monday. What do you reckon on those guys?
He's not one I've really been able to do much on. He's probably the one guy on this list, so you can miss me out on this one. He's a bit of a small school guy, so I'll have to do a bit more on him.
Okay. What about Smoke Monday?
Smoke Monday? He's not on the list, is he?
He is on the list.
No, I think I did change him. That's my fault.
Okay.
Yeah, I took out Trey Sterling. I think it's on the document, not on the list. I took out Trey Sterling.
Trey Sterling was one I did the most viewing on. Oh, bloody hell. You could have mentioned that one.
Very much. No, go ahead. Don't talk
really
about
like
him, like because
I really like Trey Sterling. I think he's the better of those two safeties at Oklahoma. So, Oh well.
Yeah, no, I should have got rid of the next guy. Yeah, I should have got rid of Colby Harville-Peel, who's the next guy. Like I said, I'll brush over him quickly because Trey Sterling is better. Harville-Peel can only be a strong safety because his coverage is weak, and he's only 5'11".
Sterling's numbers are insane, and his tape is just as good.
Yeah, he should be a Premier safety this year. Like I said, Trey Sterling, like I said, I think he was on this list somewhere about 15, so he's rated higher than Colby Peel. So he's someone that this is a tandem to look for. And it's going to be a bit like TCU's last year. So these two are going to be very interesting to watch together. But Trey Sterling and Colby Harville-Peel, they work well together. One is more free safety, one is more strong safety. So you can kind of compare them to Morig and Washington from last year. So, but I think these two are going to be great to watch. And Sterling, for an undersized guy, he racks up those numbers. So I really like Sterling.
I'll just plug him then if you've avoided him. So, I mean, for me, Sterling, 2 seasons, 144 tackles, 19 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 3 interceptions, 12 passes defended. These are huge numbers. This guy is great in coverage. He's almost Richie Grant-esque, and we'll not go into that thing in reading quarterbacks and breaking up passes, knowing where to be. 20 tackles for loss nearly. 11 last year alone. The guy blitzes. He gets at quarterbacks. He's such an exciting prospect to see. I know you said he's undersized, and that is true, but bloody hell, if he has another year like that, his stock is going to be so high, and he would be one of the safeties I'd be more tempted to target. I don't know where, but I'd certainly be straight after him if I could be.
Yeah, working out where to put him is difficult. Because like I say, everything he does so well. Like I say, off the edge, cut to line of scrimmage, you can show blitz, he'll drop into coverage. But once he hauls ass off the edge, like I say, wraps up those tackles in the backfield. For someone like his stature, wraps up really well. Like he's a really solid tackler.
And to my knowledge, Oklahoma aren't big on their edge rushers. So it's not like there's other guys taking the attention away. He has to beat guys to get there. He's, he looks small, but he's got a bark and a bite.
Yeah, Oklahoma State they're a fairly weak defense. Like I say, we'll brush over Colby Harville-Peel, his teammate. He's the 21st ranked safety. He is only 5'11". He is limited because his coverage needs a lot of work. He's a decent tackler, but he's going to only be able to probably play a strong safety next level, and that is going to definitely hold him back in the shadow of Trey Sterling, who can probably offer a bit more free and strong. So those two, they're just a team to watch. Let's see how they work together. Like they'll do well together.
Gloss over him for me. I don't know anything about Colby Harville-Peel, so let's move on.
The final of the 5th guys is someone that is from one of the bigger teams. That is Jordan Battle from the Alabama Crimson Tide. 6'1", heavy, 100 kilos, comes in at number 7 at the Walter Football list. The production, the lack of numbers, don't tell you everything about him. 2020, 68 tackles, just a 1 interception, but he is an extremely confident tackler. He believes in his ability to come up and wrap up, and he's someone that doesn't fear going in. Like, he's got supreme confidence when he's going to make the tackle. He doesn't shy away from it. He doesn't wait for contact. He comes down and makes it. So he makes his presence known on the field, which is good. He's got a strong, solid frame, which I appreciate. And he's got just a great skill set. He's someone that will be able to move around the field, I think, a bit more of a Swiss Army knife. They'll put him, like, say, free, strong, bit of the nickel. Like, he's going to be one of those hybrids at the next level. He's very young. Like, he's even for, like, say, how long he's played in college. So he's got someone that needs a bit of work, but it's definitely a good project there. I think he's someone that's been able to learn off of these very experienced Alabama defenders. He's going to be eligible this year. I don't know if he's going to declare or not. I think he's only a junior. He could possibly use a bit more work, but raw talent-wise, he's probably one of the highest on the list in a potential upside. So I think he's someone that's definitely should watch on another talented Alabama defense. He's going to rely heavily on those in front of him, helping him, loading off the likes of Christian Harris. So it's going to be someone really fun to watch.
I think the thing when it comes to Alabama safeties is they know what they're doing when they're developing their safeties at Alabama. They've had 9 drafted. I think, they've got 4 of them. I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick was an Alabama safety. Eddie Jackson, Clinton Dix. I mean, these are just a wealth of guys who've come through and play at such a high level. And I think, he's got the coach in there, which is going to potentially make him a really good player. So I think that's one of the first things to take into consideration about him. But, I think he just passes the eye test for me. There's a lot to like. I love his athletics ability. I think he's really explosive. Whether he's coming downfield, whether he's going side to side. I love that about him. The short area speed is something again which is really, really good. He's quick to latch onto tackles. Whether it be receiver, running back, he'll get straight into them. Really rough them up a little bit. And, for me, he's also versatile. And we keep talking about the term versatile. We're not, wanting to do Matt Patricia versatile, where he wants them to play all over the field. But you want him to be able to play schematically in bits we're going to need him. I mean, he plays single high, 2 high. He's played in the slot. He's also done a little bit of cornerback, I think, if I'm right in saying as well. So he's got the versatility you need in there as well. But like I say, the biggest thing going for him is the coaching. They know how to make great safeties in Alabama, so you're always going to have to keep an eye and see, the new one coming through. And I think if he has a really good year, I know he said the stats aren't big and they're not, but if he balls out this year, has a really good year, he's someone who you've really got to take seriously looking at in the safety class next year.
I'm going to defer to both your knowledge on Jordan. It's not another one for me as well. So, shall we hit the wild cards?
Yeah, I'll start. I've got one wild card, and I've picked him because he's coming off a torn ACL. So he missed 2020, so I'm not sure how we'll do this year. But stats-wise, it's Marcelinho Ball, also a great name. Safety from Indiana. He projected 40 time of 4:45, so he's no slouch across the field. 5'11", 214. But this guy, when you look at his stats for 4 years, like he has really put up some big numbers. So he has got, let's just have a look, 145 tackles. He's been a starter for nearly all 4 years. He has got over 4 interceptions. He's got also 5 sacks and 15.5 tackles for loss. So this guy is supremely talented. He is someone that's coming off the back end of an improving Indiana team. So they're projected to do really well again this year after last season. He's going to be really important to that. So seeing how he comes back off such a serious injury, ready for the draft, is going to be really important. He's one of those smaller guys, but the tackles for loss tell you everything you need to know. Like, he is able to quickly come downhill and also beat someone off the edge. He's able to get in the backfield, wrap up a running back despite his smaller frame. So the tackles for loss pay testament to how well his tackling form is and his technique. For someone that's a lot lesser known than someone like Sterling Weatherford, because of this small school coming up with a serious injury, is someone that could actually rise from the lower ranks with a great year. I think he's going to be someone that's going to be really fun to watch on a team that's going to get a lot of national coverage as well, because people are liking Indiana with Michael Penix Jr., Ty Freifogel. These are the names they're talking about. This guy is going to be an anchor on the back end. I think he's someone that can only do his stock good. He can't do any harm after an injury. So another good year. And he's going to have nearly 4.5 years. So he has played a lot of college football. He's going to be older by the time he gets to the draft. He'll be nearly 23. But for defensive back, that's fine, because you need experience when you throw in someone in the secondary. Like, on the offensive side of the ball, you like him to be younger, but I like a bit of knowledge and experience and high IQ, so it actually could work in his favour. It's going to be someone to watch.
What about you, Ant? What's your wild card?
It's not wild card. My wild card, I guess wild cards would be the safety pair at Georgia. That's Tyke Smith and Lewis Sine. Now, sort of Georgia are the team I'm really looking forward to seeing this year. If JT Daniels has a good year at quarterback and they make good on some of that talent they got there, I think they've got a really talented team who are going to go far this year, and hopefully they do. But I think Sign's the one who I do quite like out of the pair of them. He's a long safety. You know, he's again a versatile guy. He plays cover 2, single high. You know, he's good in man coverage against tight ends, which, you know, valuable thing. A lot of tape of him being able to nullify some really good tight ends in the college game. So, you know, he's got balanced. You know, he's good in man coverage. He's good in press. It's just a lot of little things about his game that they're sort of maybe average to above average, all aspects of his game, but he's improving as the years go along. And hopefully with another big year this year, both Georgia safeties are underrated guys. And, you know, if they're working in tandem and they're going to have a good year together, I think they're going to be high on a lot of people's boards. But for me, Sign's the one who I'm going to look for. But I say Safetyyy Harris as well. He may be there. So we'll see. But I'm really just looking forward to watching Georgia play this year.
Safetyyy Harris, when he entered the transfer portal, every team in the nation wanted him. He was easily the number one recruit. As of May 11th, PFF graded Tyke Smith the number one safety in college in 2021. And in 2020, he was part of the best passing defense in the country. West Virginia only gave up 159 yards per game in the Big 12, a pass-heavy conference. Like I say, he had all their passes defended. He had multiple interceptions. He is someone that you can rely on to play that free safety over the top, and he is really reliable. Like, he's got good hands, a good nose for the ball, and he's someone that just snuffs out passes. Quarterbacks fear targeting him, and it made perfect sense to grad transfer. He's now going to be on a bigger stage. More people will be watching him. Like, and this is someone that's gaining a lot of momentum for when he's going to be draft eligible. Like, he's going to have all eyes on him. I think he was a great choice to pick Georgia. So this is going to be probably a match made in heaven.
I think so. I think if you're going to see a good Georgia team this year, I think them two in the secondary are going to be a big part of that. I like the way, you know, I think they both bring a lot of different aspects to the table, and I think they're both going to be really good there. But like I said, there's a lot of players in that Georgia team. I mean, even JT Daniels himself, you know, I'd probably put him in the quarterback conversation last week if it weren't for injuries. He's the potential to be that good on his day, but, you know, they're a team who are definitely going to be interested in this year, and we'll see. But it wouldn't surprise me if one of these Georgia guys is on our radar towards the end of the year. So I think there's certainly a pair to keep an eye out on for sure, especially if Georgia do well and get to, you know, big bowl game.
So my wild card, I decided to go based on traits as opposed to anything else, and I thought I'd go small school too. So I've gone for Kendrick Duncan Jr. He played the last 3 seasons at Georgia Southern in the Sun Belt Conference. His stats are exemplary: 138 tackles, 3.5 for loss, 6 interceptions, 2 each year for 126 yards, 14 passes defended, a fumble recovery, and 2 forced fumbles. So the guy statistically looks great. He's actually grad transferred now to Louisville, so he'll be going up against some better competition this year. He's 6'3", 225. So he's got the frame of your modern linebacker. He's got enough athleticism to do himself fine in coverage. He's a good run defender. His technique needs a little bit of work in terms of tackling. He sometimes bites a bit hard on play action, but you can see on tape that he just loves the game. Like, he's got the right frame, he's got the right weight, he's got a good amount of speed, he's got really good instincts, and he just looks like he's having fun out there, and he just excites me. Have you guys seen any of him at all? Well, that's a smaller school.
Saw a bit of him at Georgia Southern, yeah. He's a player that standed out, like I say, once again, when he entered the transfer portal. It was obvious he was going to get a Power 5 school. Like I say, he's chosen a big name, Louisville, so he's jumping straight into the ACC. So like I say, he's going to be taking on the likes of Boston College, Phil Djokovic. Like I say, he's going to be taking on DJ Ogungalele. Like, he's going to get some high-powered offense. He's going to get potentially picked on a little bit, and he's going to be able to see if he can sink or swim against these bigger schools and these bigger names. So there's no better way to test himself. Like, this is going to be someone that's going to thrive off competition. And most importantly, like I say, it's a position where if you look like you're having fun, like, it's great for everyone, like you say, because it's a sink or swim position. You're the last line of defense. So if you can make it look good while you're doing it, you're going to have all eyes on you. And like say, come draft time, like this grad transfer could absolutely work wonders for him. So I can't wait to watch him.
Good stuff. What about you, Ant? Did you manage to see him at all?
No, you've beaten me there. That's too small school for my liking.
Fair. Right, let's run down the guys that we've talked about tonight. So we talked about linebackers, and we talked about Christian Harris from Alabama, Ventrell Miller from Florida, Devin Lloyd from Utah, Owen Pappo from Auburn, Mike Jones Jr. from LSU, DeMarvion Overshown from Texas, Edafan Ulafosho from Washington, and Merlin Robertson from Arizona State. Is that right? Good.
Yeah.
Good. I did not write that in, but I thought I remembered it with your guys. So cool. And the safeties we've just talked about: Bubba Bolden from Miami, Sterling Weatherford from Miami, Ohio, Smoke Monday from Auburn, Colby Harville-Peel from Oklahoma State, and also Trey Sterling from Oklahoma State, Jordan Battle from Alabama, Kendrick Duncan from Louisville, Marcelino Ball from Indiana, and Lewis Sign, and Tyke Smith from Georgia. So those are your guys to watch for the 2022 college football season at the linebacker and safety positions. That concludes, boys, our look at the 2022 NFL draft at this point in the season. From now on, training camp starts in a week. I cannot wait. The season starts right now. You know, all the podcasts are starting to ramp up their content around the NFL. They're doing 2 shows a week from now. It's coming. It's happening. I can't wait. Right.
I know it's for me it's gone really quick. I thought when it came to summer, it was going to be long and it was going to be difficult to find stuff to do. But you know, I think we've got through it quite well. To be fair, I mean, we've been putting in a lot of work. This has been nearly a second job. This has, but I feel like we've gone through quite a lot over the summer. A lot of good stuff as well.
Yeah,
I agree. It's mad to think that we're talking about next year's draft and we've literally just hosted this year's, because how condensed it's all going to be, it's just flown.
It has absolutely flown. And speaking about the 2021 NFL Draft, our final rookie tape review live is happening this Saturday. We're going to do the second half of Levi Onwuzurike's tape, and we're going to have an extended look at Penei Sewell. Next week's episode, the content is to be confirmed. We've left one kind of gap free to just kind of talk about what we want, so stay tuned for that. But I'm hoping to get on one of the guests I'm most excited about all off-season. I'm hoping I can convert that, but we shall see. I'm not ready to tip my hand on that just yet. Don't forget to hit us up on our socials. You'll see it if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch now that it's on the ticker on the screen. But on YouTube, it's Roar of the Lions UK, Twitch, ROTL_UK, and it's the same on Twitter, Facebook. The page is Roar of the Lions UK. The group is Detroit Lions Fans UK 1 Pride Worldwide. On Instagram, ROTL.UK, on the web, roarofthelionsuk.com. We've got some content coming up shortly, I hope, talking about our NFC North rivals, so look out for that. C. Gerald has just messaged on YouTube saying training camp is next week. I try not to look at dates because it makes me go too slow. Yes, I think the first is on the 31st of July. I think that's for season ticket holders only, and then runs for the next 10 days. So that is, what's 10 days from now? Next Saturday, we're kicking off training camp. So it's not far. It's not long. I cannot wait. It just remains for me to thank my co-hosts Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ryan McCluskey. I'm Matthew Turner. We'll see you on Saturday for Levi and Penei. Bye for now. Let's go Lions. One Pride.
One Pride. Follow us on Twitter.
One Pride.
Get to 1,000.